Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Cory, and on this week's episode, we are interviewing yet another one of my Facebook friends, a colleague in the automotive world, all-around good guy who has made me very hungry as I am here recording, because not only does he dabble in automotive, he runs a YouTube channel called I Want to Cook. And oh yeah, he also is really into music. He wears many, many hats. His name is Matt Degen. He does work for Kelley Blue Book. He, like I said, runs a cooking YouTube channel. So yes, there's a lot to talk about, and we will touch on it all in this week's episode. But you didn't come here to listen to me ramble on. Let's bring on Matt and have a conversation with him. Well, I am so blessed and thrilled to have Matt Degen join me this week on the podcast and to talk a little bit of cars, a little bit of cooking. Who knows what we will find in between. Matt, great to have you.
It's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are the senior associate editor at Kelley Blue Book, correct?
If you say so. No, I think so. I think that's my most recent title. That sounds good. Let's do with that.
Yeah.
I work for Kelley Blue Book.
Okay, well, there we go. You are actually not the first KBB employee to have joined me here on the GT Garage Talk podcast. A few weeks ago, I was blessed to get to speak with Lynn Woodward and cover her journey in all things rally. So I'm very thankful for y'all as a company. I've relied on the website and Micah and all of his team on YouTube reviews until jumping into it myself. So very appreciative of all that Kelley Blue Book does.
Very cool. We've got a great team. Lynn is absolutely amazing. Micah is amazing. Our editorial team, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I really do think we have the best editorial team in the business, and I feel super blessed just to be a part of it.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me into what exactly your role is there at KBB. And I know you've done some traveling. You recently got back from a really cool trip. But what all do you have your hands in there at KBB?
Yeah, good question. So I just celebrated about 10 years at the company, so I've been there a little while. I was hired basically to review vehicles, and that means to test drive new cars, go on the press launches, test the fleets that we have regularly in, do comparison tests, and basically write the reviews. So if somebody goes to KBB and they want to see a review of the latest Honda Accord, there's a good chance that that'll have my byline. That's basically what I do is write reviews, write comparisons, etc. A little more recently, I actually took on a different role where I'm doing more editing versus writing. And we had a need for more editing, and I enjoy editing. So it's been a nice, I don't want to call it a break, but just something different. I'm still writing about cars. I'm still going on press launches once in a while, but I'm not doing it as much as I was. I'm just kind of doing a little more editing, helping some of our freelance writers, etc., to kind of get better at their craft and whatnot.
All right. Well, that's awesome. The world needs many, many more good editors. As some may know, I do freelance writing on the side, and it's always good to come across a good editor versus one that's just an old grouch. So the world is in need of good editors. But I understand, granted, I've only truly been in the review world for a year, that it has gotten very different anyway. On the review side of things, fleets have changed and shifted, and different brands are doing different things. I know for us here locally, Ford is struggling just to have vehicles with chip shortages and all the fun stuff that's going on in the automotive industry right now. So just a different look for sure on this side of things. Auto shows are a little bit different, and just, evolving with the times, right?
Yeah, far different. We're seeing that, like you mentioned, auto shows and just the way cars are being launched these days. Uh, Even pre-pandemic, we saw some of these changes, and then when the pandemic arrived, everything went out the window as far as what we know for any regularity. So yeah, lot of difference. Now I'm in Southern California, so we have a pretty big market out here as far as other media.
Right.
A lot of automotive media are out here, so we have a bigger fleet pool. Um, that's not exactly hurting or in the
Right.
middle of nowhere. So yeah, we have a little more access, but um, I'm sure even there, you can't you can't give a car that you don't have in your fleet, right? And if there's a chip shortage or whatever that's made that car unavailable, it is what it is.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to, we will get into. I've got some fun questions to end the interview, but what would you say as perhaps one of the more memorable vehicles or vehicle launches that you have been to in your career?
Oh, gads. So what you hear is my mind flipping through hundreds and literally hundreds of vehicle launches and press trips. Um, I truly do like pinch myself every day because as a kid, probably like you, I grew up reading Car and Driver and
Mm-hmm.
Road and Track and all the magazines, and like it never even dawned on me that first of all that could be a job. Is that
Right.
somebody pays you to go to some crazy country and drive a car, and then write about it? And I, I've been doing this for well over a decade, and I have to wrap my head around that I'm doing that now. That I'm one of those people with those bylines. But boy, I mean, yeah, we've had some crazy ones from getting absolutely lost beyond. Like I was driving Sprinter vans in Germany. It was my first trip to Germany. Me and my partner were on the autobahn, and we got so lost that the GPS literally shut off. And it was one of these crazy German trips where like I seriously the stop one of the stop points was like a strip mine. It was just like it was crazy. And we were absolutely so bonkers lost, and neither of us could read German. We didn't know if we'd actually be spending the night in that van. Um, by the grace of God, somehow the GPS turned back on, and we found our way, and I eventually got home. But there's always something different like that. I've had some epic four buying adventures. Actually doing the Rubicon Trail
Right.
in a Rubicon Jeep was like one of my bucket list. Recently, I just got back from Vietnam, where I was with a new automaker called VinFast, checking out not only their new electric car, but like everything this company does, which is massive. They're a huge conglomerate over there. They've got hotels and theme parks. They do a lot more than cars. So yeah, a lot of crazy but memorable adventures.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of VinFast in my feed and the auto shows I've gone to, and then getting to see kind of your adventures through the wonders of Facebook uh, as you are out there in Vietnam. It's an interesting. We're kind of in the Wild West all over again with the way that EV architecture has kind of opened up the automotive world in a way that it hasn't really been since maybe the 20s and 30s. You get all these startups like the one that really intrigues me is Canoe.
Mm-hmm.
They're here locally, not too far from me. I believe they're based in Arkansas, and just a very funky, unique cargo van, lifestyle activity vehicle, bubble on wheels. I don't know. There's just it's almost like you can open your eyes and new day, new startup trying to create something out in the automotive space.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, when you look back at the history of automobiles, I mean, there were like just dozens and dozens of brands back in like the tens and the 20s that are no longer even here, right? And we're seeing maybe not something similar because it's a different time and it takes different capacity to create a car these days. But yeah, it's much more of it's there's much more potential for disruption. And I so when I got back from Vietnam, I wrote a big article on, you know, because most Americans don't have no idea what VinFast is, and how should they? So I wrote a very primer on what this company is, and one of my points at the bottom, I did it kind of in a Q&A format with myself, and I think something a lot of folks are going to want to know is, can this company actually be successful, right? Can this startup actually crack the American market? And my conclusion is that if they were just trying to bring another gas-powered 2 and 3 row SUV to the market, probably not, right? That segment is already so saturated. But the EV market, as a brand new EV player, they might have a chance, right? Because we've seen, of course, Tesla, we've seen Rivian, we've seen Lucid. So we've seen these automakers be able to beat the established players to the game, to the mark on what they're bringing. So, if VinFast can jump in here in this kind of window of time, as I see it, before the mainstream automakers start really churning out EVs, they might have a shot.
Yeah, we are in a weird spot right now because, yeah, legacy automakers are riding and turning the ship, but it's like moving the Titanic out of the way of the iceberg. You really had to plan and start turning a long time ago. So, whereas all these startups are light and flexible and can churn stuff out, and then the harsh realities of the modern era with closures and chip shortages. I know we keep coming back to it, but even Rivian has been hit with they've had to increase prices. They've had to change some of how they go to market and things like that. So they're kind of learning on the fly too, that it's not quite as easy a game as maybe it initially appeared.
No, it's not. And so, but before I was with KBB, I was actually a newspaper reporter for over a decade. And for part of that time, I was an automotive reporter, and I was doing more like on the business end. And I was following, at the time very closely, Fisker, like their first incarnation, because they were based in Orange County. I worked for the Orange County newspaper called the Orange County Register. And, that was a big deal. And kind of following them from, their very beginnings to kind of their flame out, it was a good lesson in just how tough it is to crack the U.S. market, to actually make, and not just make a vehicle that people will buy, but to continue and survive. And yeah, there's a lot of lessons there, and it's so tough. I mean, they can come about with all these big grandiose plans. The one I love to hear all the time is, these automakers and say, yeah, in 5 years or 2 years or whatever, we're going to be churning out 500,000 cars. It's like, okay. I mean, if you say so, we've all heard it before, and props for these companies for trying. We obviously, I think competition is wonderful, but boy, it takes it's kind of like the biggest home project you've ever had, in my opinion. It's probably going to be at least twice the cost and twice the length of time. I mean, it just takes so much money and so much effort and intelligence to make it and to do it right.
So it's interesting that you bring up Fisker, because I was at the LA Auto Show this past November, and Henrik Fisker, the founder and CEO, was there, and they're basically coming back. They're going to do it again, and changed up the formula a little bit, learned a lot from, as you put it, his first go and flame out. And what are your thoughts on the Fisker Ocean and this new kind of idea? He seems like a very passionate individual. He came out there, went completely off script with his boxed water. So,
yeah, Henrik is a very interesting fellow. I've interviewed him a couple times at auto shows and whatnot. And, I guess we'll see.
yeah.
again, the proof is in the pudding, right? Again, they can bring out a great looking car and make all these promises, but at some point you got to bring it to production,
Right.
right? So we'll see. I think and he's using that. He's going to be using a different method of manufacture. It's not like he's building his own factories. Like,
Hmm.
to bring back the example of VinFast. I mean, I actually toured their factories, and they're amazing. Like, they are state of the art. These guys are not using contract manufacturers. They're not using, somebody to build their cars. And I think that's a big differentiator between uh, an automaker that really is establishing itself or is established, and someone who's going a different route, right?
Right.
So um, again, it's not to say that a contract manufacturer can't work, right?
Right.
They certainly can. We've seen that with Magna and some of the others, right? But I think that's a big differentiator. So that's a big, long, roundabout way of saying we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
not, you know, I've heard a lot of promises before.
Yeah. Another big name that's kind of come back into the spotlight is DeLorean. So another one here in my backyard down in San Antonio. Uh, they're promising big things. They're teasing us with the image. They've partnered with a towel design, so it's going to be stunning. It better be stainless steel. That's all I gotta say. But yeah,
Can you imagine stainless steel in today's world? That'd be wild, man. That would be wild. Yeah, no, it looks cool. I mean, from the teaser images we've seen, are these cars going to sell in any considerable amount? I mean, come on, it's that, and that's the thing. It's like, are you, what is their plan? I'm just as eager to hear. Are they going to be kind of a niche player that just sells a few vehicles to people who are enthusiasts and have deep pockets? Um, who knows, right?
yeah. So I feel like I always end up talking about electric cars because they're such a big part of the conversation when talking about cars nowadays. But I want to take it a little bit further back. So you had mentioned you started off in the newspaper world writing there, but what really helped cultivate your love, your passion for the automotive world?
Uh, I don't know, Hot Wheels,
Yeah.
Matchbox. I mean, it really it goes back to my just to childhood, and I always dug cars. Um, so yeah, I mean, how do you get a passion for anything, right?
Mhm.
I think sometimes there's something that just ignites it in you, and I don't know that there was any one thing that did that. As a kid, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, so my parents were always finding different ways to make money on the side. And one thing my dad would do, my dad is absolutely brilliant. He is basically a self-taught everything, and he's really good at fixing things, like anything. And he would buy and sell cars. He would just buy just about any car you can imagine, fix it up, and then resell it. And I remember we had old Jeeps, we had Rovers, like the actual sedans. I mean, like cars you'd never even heard of. So maybe that had uh, an influence. But I really, Cory, I think the biggest thing that really set off my passion for cars, now that I really think about it, was this old beat up secondhand go-kart my dad bought me. I came home from school one day. I must have been in like the third or fourth grade. I was really young. And I see this old rickety go-kart. It just had like a Briggs and Stratton engine attached to like one wheel on the rear. And I drove that thing for hours and hours and hours. I loved it. And I think that's maybe what really kind of ignited my love for cars and motoring, was just that little go-kart, just running that thing for hours. I loved it. It was amazing.
Wow. It only takes one just little taste for you to want more. Yeah, I've got a little Power Wheel Jeep for my son, and of course, doing what we do, testing vehicles all the time. I've totally and utterly ruined him by before he even turned 4. So I'm in a world of hurt when he actually wants his own car. So I'll figure that out in due time. But
So self-inflicted, my friend.
yes, yes. I frequently tell the story. We had a podcast guest on who, Brad Bowen, he brought his 1991 Lamborghini Diablo to my house. And I kid you not, when I saw him turn the corner, I knew he had a Lamborghini. I didn't know what it was, which model. When he turned the corner, I got weak in the knees and I about fell over because I had that exact model, color, wheels, everything. And to see it driving down my street towards my person and then to be handed the keys and said, here you go. Just what is life right now? Like, me and my co-host at the time took it for a drive around my neighborhood and attempted to put something on YouTube from it, but it was basically just us smiling, giggling, and laughing around my neighborhood. It's just ridiculous. The love of cars and what's out there. Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to meet your heroes.
Yes, and I've done a few videos on that premise. So I fell in love with the 4th gen Camaro, and that kind of translated into Corvette, and then it just spewed out into everything. So I recently, I mean very recently, drove an '05 Corvette convertible, and there's just so much to love about its simplicity, about it had a mission, go fast, sound good, look good. And I was not disappointed all this time later. Yes, there's a lot to be said about meeting your heroes. It's sad when they don't live up to how you've built them in your head, but there are some cars out there that I still are on my hit list that I can't wait.
Well, we'll hope you get a chance to hit them all.
Yes, yes. Hopefully, all in due time, right? All in due time. So, one more question about your automotive past. Any notable vehicles in your personal lineup of cars? I know, like I said, you and I, we're constantly in something new, testing them out. That doesn't exactly count, but like vehicles that you, I don't want to say idolized, but just loved and taken in, wish you had back, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty eclectic, as you can probably imagine. Acura NSX is just
Ooh.
it's a I really enjoy the heck out of that car. Both the both the original and then the more modern equivalent that sadly is going out the door.
Mm.
That's fantastic vehicle. Um, one of the cars that I really enjoyed and I miss is it was my long term test car for kids. I think I had it 2 years. Was the Volkswagen Alltrack. That was such a cool vehicle. Again, they stopped making it; only lasted a few years, but it's basically a Golf wagon that had all-wheel drive and was lifted a little bit. And part of that was just because of the experiences in it. Yes, it was practical and all that, but my wife and I we actually drove that car out to Texas with our dog at the time, and we've created so many memories in that car. So that was a lot of fun. It's just the memories. A little more recently is the Bronco. I absolutely love that vehicle. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it. I absolutely love. I think Ford did such a great job.
They really did.
I love that vehicle so much that I recently rescued another dog, and I named him Bronco. His name is Bronco, and I've got kind of a manifest destiny situation going on where at someday he will be my passenger, my right side passenger in the Bronco.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll be in a world of hurt when my wife and I finally decide to pull the trigger on buying our next vehicle, because we had a Bronco for a week and it left a very strong, favorable impression in her mind. Others have as well. So it's going to be really tough for us to decide on something. But she left that review saying, "All right, when are we getting one?" And I'm like, I mean, we don't need a car right now. So yeah, it they did so much right with that car, and it is a shame that Ford has had such a bumpy rollout with it, both of some of their own doing and a lot of the world times that we're in. So yeah, just all around very, very good fun vehicle. So you're not just into cars, you have a YouTube channel yourself, and I can see it. Our listeners cannot. You've got a lot of stuff back behind you from your YouTube life and this other life you live after hours. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Man, it almost sounds like a superhero, right? I have this dual personality. Yeah, I kind of do. So I'm obviously into very much into cars, but I'm just as much into cooking. My little background on me is actually before I was a car writer, I was a food writer,
Okay.
and I got really serious into my food writing. And I kind of went method. I said, if I'm going to be a food writer, I'm going to go to culinary school. I'm going to learn. I'm going to actually become a trained chef, not to run a restaurant or anything like that, but just to really know what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to writing for food. So while I was working full time as a newspaper reporter, I actually went to culinary school. It took me 5 years, but I got, I went through the full program, became a trained chef, and I was doing food writing for a number of years, up to quite recently, actually. Uh, but some of my freelance food writing dried up when the pandemic hit. And I said, well, you know what? Why don't I just start a YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a channel. It's called I Want to Cook. Real simple. And just like, you know, I think every video is a learning process. It's
Right.
been up a couple of years now, and it's a lot of fun. It's for people who are. I want to say every time someone says, "Oh, I'm not a very good cook," or "I don't know how to cook," I say, "Awesome! You are the person I am reaching out to. You're the person I created this channel for. Is for people of all skill levels, especially novices." So yeah, that's kind of what I do on the side.
Well, I've appreciated our Facebook friendship because you've shared obviously all your videos that way, and that's how I kind of got to know you a little bit better was watching your videos. I would say I'm somewhere in that realm of novice to wanting to do more and explore more. I joked when I met my wife, I was like, I can cook breakfast, and by breakfast I mean scrambled eggs or just very low level, not hard to prepare meals, but I want to cook, as your channel implies. So uh, it, I'm going to be doing some research, and I'm going to surprise her with some learnings from your channel because, like, we all love food. Like, that's something we do well and are blessed with here in America, and uh, definitely something I want to embellish on a little bit more. But what would you say would be your like go-to dish for somebody getting into it but wanting to impress somebody?
Yeah, just do a frittata. You will blow your family, your friends, your loved ones away. A frittata, it sounds fancy, it looks fancy, it's so easy. And you just mentioned that you can make scrambled eggs. If you can make scrambled eggs, you can make a frittata. Frittata is basically an egg dish that you throw whatever else you want in it: potatoes, vegetables, meat. You start it in a pan. You can start it in a nice cast iron pan or skillet, whatever you got. Throw it in the oven. It sets. Put some cheese on the top. You're done. It's amazing. And frittata is one of my favorite things to teach people how to make because the results are great. It's something you can eat literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's make a frittata for your wife, and you'll be like husband of the year.
Yeah. Well, we were joking about doing breakfast for dinner tonight, so I may whip that one up. We'll see what actually comes to pass. So I can't not ask, what is your favorite dish to prepare?
Oh man, that's almost like asking my favorite car.
Right.
So
Oh,
the
don't
first
worry.
thing
I'm
is,
going to ask that question later.
yeah, probably some sort of Mexican dish. I just if there's one cuisine I could eat every single day, and I often do, it's Mexican. In fact,
Hmm.
I just got done eating a big batch of like killer homemade beans that I made with like all the fixings, cilantro and pico de gallo, and it was amazing. It'd probably be some sort of Mexican dish, whether it's enchiladas or shrimp tacos, something like that. I lean more toward. Um, first of all, I'll eat just about any food.
Right.
No, I don't have any off limits foods because I've pretty much cooked and eaten everything at some point in time, including a huge snail from in Vietnam. If you saw that, it wasn't very good. Um, anyways, but yeah, probably something like that. I tend to go more toward. I'd want to say vegetarian slash pescatarian, which is more like fish and things.
Mm.
But I'll do poultry. My wife does like red meat, so I'll cook steaks for her. But for me personally, it's more it's more of a vegetarian slash pescatarian diet. I'm also gluten free,
Okay.
so I that has a bit of an effect as well.
Yeah. Well, you definitely cannot go wrong in my household at choosing any Mexican dish whatsoever. I'm in a Lexus LX 600 right now, so me and my wife, we're going to load up. We're going to start heading your way. You'll have a dish ready for us when we get there, right?
Come on over. It'll be hot out of the oven.
Oh, yeah. Sounds great. All right. Well, Matt, before we close out, I do have a series of fun questions that'll help us as an audience, me as an interviewer, get to know your brain, your psyche, how you think just a little bit more. The
Ooh, that's a
segment,
scary thing. Be careful of what you ask for.
yes, the segment is called Random Misfire, and there are 8 questions because all good engines should have 8 cylinders. And with that, the hard work for me, I've got than 8 to choose from, will be picking 8, just 8 to ask you here. The first one's always easy, though. Do you name your vehicles?
Of course.
A-
Absolutely.
Any notable names slash vehicles in your history?
Yeah, yeah. So I had just as all good auto journalists do, I had a Miata. I had it
Okay.
for about 10 years until somebody crashed into me. But
Hmm.
my dear beloved Miata, her name was Maya.
Okay.
Yeah. I currently have an old Lexus SUV, and his name is Rex.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I jokingly started naming vehicles before I ever had one. At the age of like 12 or 14, I was convinced I was going to have a Camaro one day, named it Cameron. So naturally, when I actually did get my Camaro, named her Cameron. But then I got my first car and I was like, well, do I name this one? Where do I go with this? So, yes, you that's the only question I'm going to ask you that has a wrong answer, and you got it right. So,
They're members of the family, man.
yeah.
And I like that we actually gave them like genders too,
Yeah.
right? We went beyond just the name.
Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, this will be a good one. Would you rather buy something right off the factory floor that is everything you want, or would you be more inclined to build something just the way you want it?
Yeah, I'd probably build it the way I wanted it.
Yeah. Which leads me into on road or off road.
Ooh, that's tough. Man, tough. That's tough. If you'd asked me that at a different time, I might have said on road, but I think these days it's all about off road.
It's a very interesting dynamic. Just seeing when I grew up, like it was performance cars. That's where the pony car wars were in full effect, and uh, everybody was really competing in that performance car realm. Now, if it doesn't have four doors or a truck bed or a lifted suspension, is it a performance vehicle? What are you even doing here? So it's been really interesting to see my editor, videographer, co-host on some episodes, and friend was on a couple of weeks ago, and he raised a really good point that he prefers on-road because he has broken too many things, left too many times on a trailer going hard off-road, whereas in the on-road realm, typically you're not leaving on a trailer if you don't have to.
And when you get stranded on road, at least you're not like 1,000 miles from a tow service, out in the boonies.
Right. Let's see here. Do you hand wash your vehicles?
Absolutely.
No.
I something I enjoy doing it. In fact, a few weeks ago, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go relax. And next thing you know, I'm out there washing my vehicle. Yeah, I really enjoy washing vehicles by hand.
I do as well. My mom was blessed. I have an older brother, so two car guy children in the household. When she upgraded from her 92 Plymouth Grand Voyager to her 98 bright red wide track Pontiac Grand Prix GTP supercharged 240 horsepower V6. Yeah, I remember all of that. We were just enamored with it. And I don't think there was a sunny day in the summer that one of us wasn't out there washing it for her. I don't think it ever saw a speck of dust that we didn't want on there. Unfortunately for me, I'm going to have to tell this story sometime. I don't want to steal an interview by any means, but I'm going to have to tell a story about how hand washing my 07 Silverado saved my life. But that's for another day. I'll just keep teasing it until I can figure out how to work it into an episode there. Do you prefer, because we live in a world of just amazing new vehicles, the build quality, the materials, what they are capable of, new or classic?
Well, it depends on how you define classic. I really have a soft spot in my heart for older, like Toyota vehicles, older Lexus, and when I say older, I mean more like the Radwood type era,
Okay.
kind of 90s era vehicles. But if I'm buying, it's probably going to be new. It's just practical wise, I'd probably just go new. Unless I found a really low mileage, like Lexus SC300 or something like that with a manual transmission.
Yes. Yeah. Growing up through the Radwood era, I'm like, it's sad to think that those could officially be listed as classic cars nowadays. I believe it's 25 years is the threshold. So yeah, that hurts a little. I'm like, wait, when did I become old? That's a classic? Let's see. Let's see. We are 5 in, 3 to go. We talked so much about EVs earlier. ICE or EV?
I ask myself that, if not daily, several times a week. Because, I'm always thinking like, for me as a KBBer, I'm always trying to put myself in the mind of a consumer, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we do, right? We are helping consumers buy, everyday consumers buy everyday cars. So I ask myself that kind of question every day. I think if I'm talking like right now, after this interview, I go out and buy a car. It can go either way depending on the car, but hear me out. I'm going either plug-in hybrid, like Toyota RAV4 Prime, where you get the best of both worlds, where you get, both. Basically, you could drive 42 miles on electricity, then you can drive cross-country on the gas engine. Boom, done. But then again, man, it's like literally some of the new EVs coming out look so cool. I've been seeing more and more of the Hyundai Ioniq 5s on the road. Oh my gosh. I actually haven't had a chance to drive it yet, and I can't wait. That thing looks like it came straight out of like an 80s video game into my brain. I love the look of that thing. It's really cool. So that'd be a tough decision. But yeah, I'd go either plug-in hybrid or the absolute latest in EVs.
So it's interesting that you answer it that way because at the beginning of 2022, my wife joined our video team here at Garage Talk, and she has sampled plug-in hybrids, EVs, and all that. Now, any gas car we get, her first question is, well, is there a hybrid option? And I've really gotten her hooked on plug-in hybrids because of, like you said, it's the best of both worlds. You could commute on total electricity and take the exact same vehicle on a road trip across, for us, Texas or the country. And
as well be the country. I've driven across that state.
Yes. To the point where at the Chicago Auto Show, I was trying to talk her into the new Grand Cherokee 4xe Trailhawk because she currently drives a 14 Cherokee Trailhawk. And I'm like, okay, next size up, best of both worlds. We're going to have to get one in for a week-long test around here for me to, fully seal that deal. But you mentioned the Ioniq 5. We literally just turned that one in, and my wife just floored me, shocked me, whatever the word is. She did not want to let that one go. She was enamored. Her only complaint was for our family where we're at right now, our life stage. It was just a little too small for what she saw us purchasing next. And I was like, well, you're in luck. They've already teased the SUV counterpart to this. It's built on a skateboard platform. We will see it very soon. And she saw my coverage of the Hyundai. I don't know if they're actually if they dubbed it the Ioniq 7 concept or just the 7 concept, the weird green thing from the LA Auto Show. But she loved the styling on that, and I was like, well, we'll see some version of that. So I have a sneaking suspicion that the next vehicle in our household will be one, Korean, because everything we've sampled from that whole brand, family of brands, we've both loved. And two, it's probably going to be a plug-in hybrid or a full EV for all the reasons you mentioned. It's become a very compelling sell in the modern market.
Yeah, and I think in the end, personally, I will probably have both. And again, both the cars we have, they're old and paid off. So we'll have probably a gas vehicle just because we have a gas vehicle. But if you're in the position of having both, then yeah, an EV really makes a lot of sense, especially if you're in a place like me in California where you not only have crazy gas prices, but lots of sun. So it's like, let's do the math, right? Let's put some solar panels up and literally get free fuel for our vehicle, right?
All right. Those were a little heavier topics, so we're going to end on two fun ones. Favorite car-themed based movie?
Does everybody say Cars to this?
No, actually, I believe my wife is the only one to answer anything from the Cars franchise.
Okay. No, Cars is really cool. It's kind of funny. We were just talking about Facebook. I was looking back through my memories, and I think it was like maybe 5 years ago, like this week, I actually got to go to Pixar studios and like meet with the whole team that created those movies. And that was really cool. And oddly enough, I hadn't watched the movies before then, and I watched them, and yeah, they're fun movies. So yeah, maybe Cars. Yeah, maybe Cars. Although that first scene in Baby Driver, if you want to include that, yes. Oh my gosh. The rest of the movie, but that first scene,
yep,
that's a great scene.
Yeah, we just did something. We didn't go to Pixar. We didn't meet the creators, but we did the next best thing. We took our son for his 4th birthday to Disney California Adventure to Cars Land, and then
Nice.
drove home down Route 66, stopping at all the iconic landmarks that inspired the town of Radiator Springs. So there's a station in Shamrock, Texas that inspired Ramones. There's a cafe in Adrian, Texas that inspired Flows. And there's a motor court hotel motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, Arizona. What? I don't even remember. But that helped inspire the Cozy Cone. It was just so much fun, and then getting to meet the people all along the way that helped make Route 66 America's Main Street. It was an awesome experience, trip, video making process. Last but not least, you referenced Baby Driver. Another thing that movie is famous for is its soundtrack. What is your driving soundtrack?
Ooh, good question. So we'll open up just a tiny other can of worms. I used to be a music journalist as
Oh
well.
my goodness.
So I'm
Man
really
of many
into
hats.
audio. I'm really into music. Probably anything by like U2, Switchfoot. I'm into them. The Killers. It's mostly those types. But I mean, seriously, I've got. I might date myself here a little bit, but I've probably got about 3,000 CDs because I used to get CDs sent to me all the time back in that era. Most of them are ripped now, but yeah, probably something upbeat like that. But really, the spectrum is absolutely huge as far as what I like. But yeah, usually something more kind of upbeat, and I guess what you would call alternative.
Okay. I have to ask, just because you referenced it now, what was your car CD transport device? Was it a zipper binder? Was it hard shell case? Was Velcro involved? What are we talking about here? How did you transport your music?
Well, I couldn't do the thing on the visor because it would just be too many,
Right.
and it would risk potentially serious cuts if I were in an accident with these metal flying frisbees. So no, I went probably with the binders.
Yeah.
If I had that. In truth, nowadays I just put everything on a thumb drive and I just stick it in the because modern cars don't even have CD players.
Right.
So I just rip everything in a high resolution form called FLAC. So I still get the good sound quality, but I've got thousands of songs on a thumb drive.
Okay. Bonus question here. Now that I know you're an audiophile and have sampled many a vehicle, when I was in a Maserati Levante Trofeo, we had a Maserati rep with us that had a thumb drive with high quality music that he played, and helped us sample and truly experience the sound system. What would you say is best vehicle sound system on the market right now? I'm in an LX600 with Mark Levinson sound.
Yeah, that's a good one. So another feature I do for KBB is they're called audio road test, and that's exactly what I do. Is I sample and review the highest end audio systems. So I've done them from like Bowers and Wilkins. I've done Bang and Olufsen. One of the ones that really impressed me a lot, and it's the only modern car to have it, is the Macintosh systems in the new Jeep, Grand Cherokee, and the Wagoneer. Those are absolutely fantastic. But I don't know, man. There's some surprising ones. Like the EOS system in some of the Acuras are really, really good. But boy, favorite one? I don't know, man. There's the Krell is amazing in the few cars they're in. I think right now I'm saying the Bowers and Wilkins and some of the BMWs with the diamond speakers are fantastic, and the Macintosh in the Jeeps. They're just wonderful. Oh, and the Burmisters and the Mercedes.
Okay.
Those are awesome. Love those.
Well, there you have it, gearheads. From a man who knows his stuff right there, BMW, Mercedes, or a couple of the newest, highest end Jeep products in the Grand Cherokee and Wagoneer. Well, Matt, absolutely great to have you on the episode. I'm going to keep you around after you and I hang up here for a little extra conversation. I've got 2 more questions for you behind our Patreon paywall. You can go to patreon.com/GTGarageTalk and sign up to hear just a couple more questions from Matt. But I know we've talked about it a lot. They can find you at KTBB and where else?
You can find me cooking on YouTube at I Want to Cook.
So there you have it. Matt, thanks again for coming on and just sharing your experience and your expertise with us.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Another week down. A great conversation with Matt about all things automotive, all things cooking, a little bit of music in there. I didn't even get to really investigate his trip to Vietnam as much as I wanted to. I wanted to talk about, different culinary practices and traditions there in Vietnam. He hinted a little bit, but my wife has eaten guinea pigs. There's been a lot that we could have examined just on the food aspect of things and just on that recent trip. But alas, we only have so much time here on the podcast. I'm so grateful for him coming on and joining me. You can find him over at Kelley Blue Book at kbb.com. You can find him on the YouTubes. I Want to Cook is his channel. If you want to put a face to the voice that you heard with me here today. But just incredibly grateful for his insight, his wisdom, his experience, all that he's been through doing this for many years. As for me, you know where to find me, GT Garage Talk, for all things GT over here, including links to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Until next time, gearheads, bye.